Today, we've got coconut-crusted snapper on the menu. Plus, State Representative Steve Crisafulli talks about railways and cruiseways.
Hi, and welcome back to Live with Lori. Today, we're making coconut-crusted snapper with a fiery chili garlic sauce. Our guest today is Representative Steve Crisafulli, and we're getting ready to start this sauce. While we were on our break, I went ahead and put the fish in the oven to finish it up. It should be ready in a few minutes. We're going to wilt some bok choy. And right now, if we can just get the sauce started, we're going to do 1/3 cup of Thai chili garlic sauce. And you want to make sure it's the sweet kind. If you can't find the sweet kind, that's okay because you can add sugar. It's going to be really spicy, so just know that in advance. The coconut kind of calms it down. So while you're doing that, you could zest that lime. You know how to do that, right?
I can do that. That's been my job before.
Kind of handy in the kitchen, huh? All right, well, there's our fish, so we're going to check on that real quick. And while I'm doing that, could you tell us, what do you think the most difficult vote that you've ever had to make has been?
Well, you know, we've had several difficult votes, especially early on in my legislative career. The one that comes to mind would probably be the rail bill. You know, the well-known rail bill for the state of Florida. And it wasn't about an appropriation. Most people tried to make it about an appropriation. I was looking at the future of Florida and the movement of product around our states. A lot of people were thinking of it as a bill that was a movement of people from the standpoint of rail. So I slept good with that bill. It wasn't something that I had a problem with in my community because I was able to go home and explain the issue.
There was a lot of uproar over that.
There was, and fortunately, a lot of people in the end had the opportunity to see what that bill was all about, and it was really about putting a structure in place and preparing ourselves for the future in this state. And again, you know, moving product around this state is a very important part of industry, and namely our ports industries. Having a port in my district, I knew the importance of making sure that we had this type of you know, atmosphere and this opportunity set up. From the standpoint of making sure that we could you know, set up a structure that would be good for that in the future, and ultimately I think we've done that.
Okay,
so.
Well, you mentioned the port. You know, there may be people that aren't from this area.
Yes.
Which port is that?
Port Canaveral is the port that's in our area. It's a very big shipping port as well as a cruise industry port. Namely, Disney is probably one of the bigger, you know, cruises out of there, as well as Carnival and Royal Caribbean. Our port has been a big economic boom for Brevard County, and they do good work for our community from the standpoint of creating jobs. So that's an important part. So.
Well, speaking of the port, there's a lot of fishing, a lot of things a lot of cruise boats, a lot of things that go in and out of there. How is our port, you know, doing?
Our port's doing well. They've certainly set themselves up for the future. As I mentioned, we're very fortunate to have Disney close by and a big push of people that come into this community to get on our ships, but also to spend several days in the area. With that, as I mentioned, you know, Carnival and Royal Caribbean are a big part of the cruising industry in Port Canaveral. So they're doing good. You know, they're not on the backs of the taxpayers when it comes to a yearly annual tax.
Right. That's a good thing.
It is good. They do get tax dollars from, you know, infrastructure projects from the feds as well as from the state, but from an annual perspective, as a fixed tax to the taxpayers of the county, there is no burden on us.
Right.
So.
Well, I was chopping while you were zesting.
Yes.
And I've chopped some cilantro. I'm going to put maybe 1/4 cup in here. You can put more or less depending on your taste. I like cilantro, and I think it goes really well with the fish. So while he's mixing that up, we're going to check on the fish. I've also heated the pan here, and I've got some bok choy that we're going to throw into a searing hot pan because we're going to wilt it. Once it's wilted, we're going to put some sesame oil on it, and we're going to serve it. And hopefully, if we work this out right, everything will be done at the same time.
It's always the challenge.
That's always the challenge. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you chop this up. And we're not going to chop it too fine.
Okay.
Just kind of crunch it up just a little bit while I take the fish out. What do you think the most important bill that you've ever introduced is?
I would say that the cost-benefit analysis, or also known as the dynamic scoring bill, was a very important bill that was passed by the legislature. And I would never say that I did anything on my own. I truly believe that this process is about building alliances and making sure that you're working with your fellow legislators on issues. But I will say that probably one of the most important bills that I've sponsored was that bill, and that's really about the return on investment.
Right.
One thing that the legislature has never had an opportunity to hear about is we spend the money, but what do we get in return for it? That piece of legislation would require an analysis to be done on the return on the investment from an appropriation standpoint. So that piece of legislation, I would say, was probably the most important piece for me, being a business person, knowing that our businesses do not run successfully without having returns on our investments. Obviously, there are certain things that you can't put an ROI on, and that would be your health care spending and
Right.
that sort of thing. But certainly from the standpoint of appropriations when it comes to economic development or finance and tax type bills, it's important to know what you're getting back in return for that ultimate investment. So.
Other than that, what do you think is Florida's most important thing facing the state?
Well, I certainly believe that moving forward, we need to continue to work on an effort to make sure that our industry and our state is working appropriately and making sure that we're not doing things in government to hinder the operation of business in our state. First and foremost, that's making sure that the people that are already here are being protected from regulation from government that's affecting their business opportunities, but also looking for opportunities to open the door to new businesses to come into our state. And having Brevard County in my district and the space industry in my backyard, it's been very important for me to make sure that I focus on that sort of legislation.
I think that is really important.
Absolutely.
Join us, come on back with us, and we're going to plate everything. We're going to let Steve taste the efforts of his day shooting with us, and maybe even have a toast of wine, and we will be asking Steve our feature question.
When we come back, Lori serves up coconut crusted snapper and asks the representative her signature question.